Hey, hi, hello, howdy everyone. It is me, Kore, back at it again with Chapter 5 of Danganronpa V3. This is a very interesting chapter, a lot of plot threads coming together. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. But before that, if you like this video, please feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are not sick of my voice after this. Awesome, let's get into the redesigns. So, we are on Chapter 5, finally. Oh my goodness, is this a juicy chapter. Now, we're gonna start off here with Kichi Ouma, who obviously is the ultimate supreme leader. I leaned way further into his jester theme, not jester theme, clown theme. I felt that it was an interesting thing, and I thought that although the black and white is interesting given how morally gray he is, I just wanted to add some color to his design, quite honestly, and I don't like the pure white thing that he has going on. I don't think that there is much thought put into it, and you will see I do keep pure white in his design quite a bit, but I have reasons for it that you will hear about later. I have opinions on Ouma. I think that they didn't think in certain aspects when they were writing his character. So we'll get into the story of this chapter, and I will interject when the writers had a didn't think about this moment. But Kichi Ouma, previously in the last chapter, claimed to be the mastermind of this game. He broke into Miu's lab after the trial, stole all of her old equipment, old experiments, and hid them away somewhere. Where that somewhere is, I mean, you can assume it's his lab, but he keeps claiming to not have a lab, and no one's ever seen his room, so could be anywhere, really. Now, why would he claim to be the mastermind? Well, he wants to give the rest of the class a common target. And so by painting that target on his own back, he has shifted the board so drastically in his own favor that hopefully the rest of the class, and in particular the true mastermind, are a little out of sorts, a little confused on what is going on, why he would claim to be the mastermind, and what in the world does he know? Now, in this chapter, I am going to keep the beginning part where they attempt to escape to the outside world, and he gets a little silly with it, we'll say. The quote-unquote despair of the outside world is revealed, and he claims to be the one to have organized it, initiated it. I believe that happens in canon. If it doesn't happen in actual canon, it happens here. He claims to have already known about it, and claims to have been the one that destroyed the world, carried on the legacy of the late great Junko Enoshima, who definitely really existed, don't worry about it, guys. And he would also claim to idolize her. And it's at this point, I think, where the player would start thinking, Junko is in this game too? I thought she was just in the last one. What? I thought she was just in the first two. What? And at this point, the player would hopefully be thinking, okay, it's chapter 5. Ouma can't be telling the truth. And you would be correct in assuming Ouma can't be telling the truth. He's not telling the truth. He doesn't know who Junko Enoshima is. He heard the name once because he is pretty sure Monokuma didn't mean for him to hear it. And he filed it away for later, and later, as it turns out, is right now. Now, he also would be, I don't want to say he's terrorizing the cast, because he's acting as he believes a mastermind would. He's not intentionally trying to make their lives any worse. He, air quotes, has not announced a new motive, because the assumption of the mastermind reveal is probably enough to spark the conflict within the group. Especially if anyone is seen being particularly friendly with him. Like, say, are good old Shuichi Saihara. So at this point, from a player perspective, despite Ouma being alive, his free time events would be locked out, I would like to say. I think that that would be interesting, to lock out a living character's events for just no specific reason. He's not upset at Shuichi, but he knows that the group trusts Shuichi, and in enforcing that trust, he's trying to do something. He's trying to get back at the mastermind. I think also in this chapter, Maki would still threaten him. He does still take Kaito hostage, for lack of a better phrase, but at the same time, Korekiyo joins them. He slips in as the door is closing, attempts to pull Kaito out, and fails because he is a string bean of a man, and so the three of them are left in the Exisol garage. Is it called the garage? I don't actually know. The Exisol garage together. And Maki comes to threaten them, attempt to get Kaito out. I haven't talked much about her yet. I have thoughts on her. I will talk about her later. She goes to try and get them out. She does attempt to shoot Kokichi with a poison dart. However, the second dart is pushed out of the way by one Korekiyo Shinguji. Or not the second poison dart. Kokichi is pushed out of the way of the second poison dart by one Korekiyo Shinguji. Three guys locked in a garage together, two of them dying of poison, one of them dying of mysterious disease that makes you cough blood. I'm gonna say it's tuberculosis, just cause coughing blood, but it's generic fantasy disease. We all know it's generic fantasy disease. So, two men dying of poison, two boys dying of poison, because they are still boys. They are 16, probably-ish, somewhere in that range. And Kaito dying of fantasy tuberculosis. And so Kokichi comes up with a plan. He looks at who is there, he looks at where they are, and with three people, there's an easier time of it, he thinks. He is going to have one of the taller ones, either Korekiyo or Kaito, either one works, sit under the press, and he is going to manually press the button. They're going to override it with one of the EMP bombs. I believe that's what Miyu had, that overrode the safety switch and also, helped with the pausing. I'm gonna say that's what helped with the pausing, by the way, because how in the world would the camera not have been affected by the EMP going off? Sorry, side tangent here. It's a digital camera. It would be affected by the EMP, right? I'm not misunderstanding physics that badly, am I? Anyways, the EMP is set off by one person. Ouma is going to be the one manning the button initially, or not the button, yeah, the button initially, and Kaito or Korekiyo, whoever is not manning the EMP, is the one to be on the press initially. I'm keeping it as Kaito just because the jacket is rather iconic. Kokichi at this point is willing to sacrifice himself because he views it as, again, in the game, he views it as creating a plan that the mastermind will not be able to solve. Because if the mastermind doesn't know the answer, there's no way to confirm it, and if it can't be confirmed, then any answer will be the wrong answer. You guys know the game. You guys know how this works. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. But, so, Kokichi is willing to sacrifice himself, and it is at this point that I feel we should take a break to talk about Kaito. So let's get into Kaito's design here. Kaito Momota, the man that you are. I will say it up front here, I don't dislike dub English localization Kaito. I don't dislike Japanese original Kaito. But I think that they should be treated as two different characters because good lord the discrepancies. Good lord the discrepancies. So Kaito, in my characterization, I will say, runs a little closer to the Japanese characterization. He is more brash, he's a little bit ruder, and while he is still very positive, it's a more aggressive sort of positivity, and he's also a bit more stubborn than the English localization makes him out to be. He isn't necessarily malicious, but he is aggressive, which isn't inherently a bad thing. It's just he's loud and he has opinions and he wants to make people hear those opinions. And he is very much set in his beliefs. If he thinks something about the world, then whatever he thinks has to be the truth. That is his worldview. I'm putting that out on the table right from the beginning. I am very sorry if you prefer the English localization's characterization of Kaito. This is just how I prefer writing him because I think it's more interesting in the sense of causing interpersonal conflict without necessarily, needing to get into murders. I feel like whenever Ouma gets into a fight in the main chapters, if Kaito's not the instigator, then it's someone thinking that what would he do, I need that to be out on the table from the beginning. I don't dislike Kaito, I think he's very interesting. I think that he's more interesting if he is flawed. And I think that's a more fun way to write him. Now, getting into the chapter. Kaito is the one who is initially on the EMP. I'm gonna say it bluntly, he views Korekiyo as more expendable than him, and he views Ouma as more expendable than him, which is why he is willing to go along with this plan that ends with Ouma as the victim and Korekiyo being the only other one in danger. Korekiyo is willing to go along with it as well because he, throughout the past few chapters where he has been kept alive and, for the most part, treated with not necessarily kindness, but a level of understanding that he wouldn't have expected by some of the other members of the cast. He views himself as more expendable than Kaito, in this case. That's Korekiyo's role in this. Now, Kaito, it is at the point where Ouma is about to literally climb onto the hydraulic press that Kaito stops to question something. He looks at Ouma. And at this point, he can't see Ouma's face. He can't see the mouth that has lied to him so many times, the eyes which have glittered with malice in his view. He can only see part of Ouma's left leg, which you will see in a little bit. He has been scarred by this game. He fell through the floor. He was injured by another classmate. Ouma has not been treated kindly by this game, and he is still giving his life up to stop it. And Kaito at this point, as he is about to press this button, because they have a very short window in which the electronics will be disabled to a degree where they can override the safety switch, and this is the only EMP bomb that they have, Kaito pauses, and he goes, "Wait, if you're the mastermind, why are you giving up your life to stop this?" And it's at this point that Ouma and Korekiyo both have to take a minute and just ask themselves, is this the man that they are putting in charge of carrying out the social aspect of this plan? Is this idiot really the one that they're putting their faith in? And the answer is yes. And Ouma makes sure that Korekiyo has his collected notes, because Ouma, at this point, has his notes on every other member of the class, and he's given them to Korekiyo, who he trusts to know enough about people to be able to improvise in this trial. That's another thing. Side note, going on a tangent again here. When the writers were writing Ouma, they didn't realize they were creating the canonically smartest character in Danganronpa, and I will stand by that. I don't think they realized the implications of Ouma having a script that accounts for every single thing that every single other person alive might say. 'Cause, that's insane, right? That's insane. The writers didn't think that through. Now, getting back into Kaito. Kaito is presses the button, Ouma goes squish, and he and Korekiyo are left alive. Korekiyo dying of the poison, Kaito dying of his disease. And this is where the final stage of Ouma's plan has to come into fruition. So, we are getting back to the second part of the Ouma design! I mentioned that his design would have changed between chapters, but I think that it would be a gradual thing. I think that Ouma in chapter 1 will look how I initially designed him. He is just very silly little guy. And by chapter 5, each chapter, something changes. In chapter 1, he begins tying his hair back with his bandana, scarf, whatever, because he realizes that he needs to keep it out of his face, and that is practical. By chapter 2, the bandages that he wears have started loosening, and he's running out of the energy to tighten them. By chapter 3, his leg is injured from falling through the floor, his pants become ripped. In chapter 4, after the trial, Kaito threatens him, and his shirt tears, and Maki threatens him, his shirt tears, and he is looking worse for the wear every single chapter. So, sorry, that's just my clarification on why we have a new Ouma design. I don't have a favorite. I'm gonna say it, Ouma's not my favorite character in V3. That's Korekiyo, that's why he's lived this long. But Ouma is just so fascinating to think about. So, back to the trial, the murder plan. Kaito and Korekiyo get into the exisal. And this is Kaito, one ear pierced but not the gay ear, Momota. He is having a moment here. He thinks that it is weird to be in such close proximity to another man, especially another man that is like Korekiyo, in his words. I'm not keeping the fact that Kaito called Korekiyo a slur canon, necessarily, but I'm not keeping it canon. 'Cause, like, we need to think about that a little bit. He doesn't have the brightest opinion of Korekiyo. Korekiyo is just kind of hoping that there is an antidote. And the antidote at this point has also been delivered, but they each kind of took, Ouma and Korekiyo both took about half of it to slow the effects as much as possible, give them as much time as possible. Ouma took probably closer to a third, Korekiyo probably took closer to 2/3, just so they could be lucid enough to come up with this plan. I forgot to mention that because as I mentioned, am very, very tired. But in the exisal, Kaito and Korekiyo then open the door. Trial begins. They don't know who it is under that hydraulic press. Ouma's scarf is there, Kaito's jacket is there, Korekiyo's jacket is there, and there are bandages strewn about from who knows who, because by this point all three of them have bandages somewhere on them. And throughout the trial, Korekiyo is assisting Kaito, but the class starts catching on at some point that that's not one person in the exisal. And if it's not one person, if it is two people, who actually died? And so they start debating not only who died, but if there is one person in there, or if there is two people, or if there is even three people. What if they found a blood pack somewhere? And the trial descends into utter chaos. And then, as they are arguing back and forth within the exisal, Korekiyo shoving himself up further and further against the wall, trying to stay out of Kaito's space, because Kaito is aggressive. Kaito elbows the open the exisal button, and they both come falling out. And now it turns into a battle of Kaito not wanting to kill everyone else, but not wanting to die, and knowing that he will likely die anyways. Korekiyo in the same boat, knowing that he will likely die, not wanting to kill everyone, and the vote being perfectly split, with one person not voting. And that's weird. The votes end up, not one person not voting actually. I'm gonna renege on what I said. I'm gonna say the votes are perfectly split, with, I believe, 3 it would be going to Kaito, 3 going to Korekiyo, and 1 going to Ouma. And that's weird. And this would happen regardless of what the player voted. And so, with a split vote like this, Monokuma is the tiebreaker. And in the event of a tie, Monokuma makes the executive decision that he is going to execute both of them, because regardless of who ended up pressing the button in the end, and it was still Kaito, they both had a role in this plan. They both agreed to it, they both played a part in it, and in the end, whoever just pressed the button, it's all semantics, right? Like, it doesn't matter that much. Who actually cares? And the player at this point would be sitting thinking, this is Monokuma saying, who cares about the rules? So he really doesn't know, does he? And Kaito and Korekiyo clearly aren't forthcoming about who actually pushed the button. They both claim that they were the one that did it, or that the other one was the one that did it, or that Ouma is somehow alive at some point, because, hey, why not at this point? And you, the player, would be left in confusion. This is on purpose. They are both executed, though, and both executions fail. Korekiyo gives in to the poison, and Kaito gives in to his disease, as in canon. Both executions fail within seconds of each other. And Monokuma is not happy about it, because whoever the mastermind is, Ouma claimed to be the mastermind and then outsmarted them. And then had the gall to set up a plan like this where both of the executions fail. And it's just making fun of Monokuma because they got Monokuma to go back on his own rules and say, who even cares about the rules? And this is just... The mastermind is being made fun of from beyond the grave at this point by Ouma. And they are annoyed. So Monokuma declares, okay, well, that trial was a massive failure, and you guys are making me look ridiculous. So you know what? You guys get an hour to investigate, and then back here, mastermind trial time. You have to figure out who I am. Because the mastermind is petty and wants to feel better. And that is where we leave it for now. Mastermind is throwing a little baby rage fit, and it is very silly. It makes me laugh. It makes me giggle. I have had so much fun with this chapter. I thought the idea of 2 executions going off and 2 executions failing was just so interesting, and I've been thinking about it for forever. I hope you guys are excited for next week. Next week we'll have 2 special videos, one animatic that is mild lore, and one just regular video that's me being self-indulgent and having a silly goofy time because next week... What day of next week? I believe it's Monday after... Not this video, but after the next video goes up is my birthday, so I'm doing a birthday video because I like doing birthday stuff. I don't know. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I hope that anyone still dealing with midterms gets good grades. You guys have got this. I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye!